We're not done talking Oregon Ducks and Ohio State Buckeyes, plus Penn State looks to advance versus Boise State tonight. Michigan has this Rose Bowl matchup from last year against Alabama. Basically, the Big Ten is taking over college football. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Oregon and Ohio State, yet another preview. I got more stuff I have to unload here. Plus, Penn State has one job versus Boise State, and we'll have our Tuesday tweets, the last one of 2024, all that coming up. But today and tomorrow, we will see the best that the Big Ten has to offer. Penn State playing Boise State in the college football playoff in the Fiesta Bowl today. We'll get into that in a minute. Hang tight, Nittany Lions fans. We've got a lot to do here today. Plus, I'll tell you right now, again, Penn State can keep it simple. One job, and they walk away winners and go into the Final Four. And, of course, tomorrow, number one and undefeated Big Ten champion Oregon and the Ducks facing Ohio State, taking on the Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl. More on that game in just a moment as well. Just a quick reminder, by the way, that Locked On Big Ten is going to go live immediately following the Rose Bowl, January 1st, between Oregon and Ohio State. It'll be around 9 o'clock-ish Eastern and 6 o'clock Pacific. So look for us live on YouTube. You know we always go live after big games like that, and we'll have plenty to say about Penn State as well in that live New Year's Day broadcast around 9 p.m. Eastern time here on our Locked On Big Ten YouTube channel. But the good news is that the Big Ten will have at least one team in the college football playoff semifinals, with the winner of Oregon and Ohio State grabbing one of those slots. And, of course, if Penn State wins the Fiesta Bowl, the Big Ten will own two of the final four spots in the college football playoffs. So more on all that in just a second. So what that really means is that all you Big Ten haters out there, I'm talking to you, SEC country, you can all pipe down, because the Big Ten is dominating the college football landscape. They just are. They did all season in the top of the rankings, and they're doing it now in the postseason. Speaking of the college football landscape as well, today we'll have a rematch of last year's Rose Bowl, which was the college football semifinal in the playoffs last year between Michigan and Alabama. Not quite as much at stake here this year in the ReliaQuest Bowl at noon Eastern on ESPN. You know, last year's game was so pivotal. It launched Michigan into the national championship against current Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer when he was at Washington. Of course, it was Nick Saban's last game as a head coach before he announced his retirement. And again, we're not so sure this year's game has as much national buzz. We here in Big Ten country are very excited about it. Looking forward to seeing all of our Big Ten teams in action. Still plenty of them to go. We'll cover all those in just a second. But this will be the last chance for Sharon Moore's offense to kind of find itself before handing the offense over to five-star freshman Bryce Underwood next year at quarterback. Underwood, by the way, has been practicing with the Wolverines and getting a jump on spring ball and the 2025 season. He finished up high school early. He's allowed to join the team for practice. He will not play in the bowl game, but he's getting a feel for some things. And boy, I tell you, a lot of hype there on social media, watching a kid just flick a wrist and throw a couple of footballs. And that's all we've seen. Everyone's getting excited about it. All the arm talent. We'll say I am actually excited to see how he does. At 2 o'clock today, Eastern time on CBS, the 6-6 Washington Huskies look to close out with a winning record in Jed Fish's first season by taking on the 8-4 Louisville football team in the Sun Bowl. And in case you missed it earlier this week, former Chiefs, Commanders, and UCLA offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy landed with the Huskies as an offensive analyst. So he's part of that program now. At 3 o'clock Eastern today on ABC, in a game that I think is actually the most entertaining and most interesting of the non-playoff games here. And that's the Sun Bowl. We're 9-3 and 15th ranked South Carolina taking on 9-3 and 20th ranked Illinois. The Fighting Illini, they're a good football team. They've been weaving in and out of the top 25 all season long, but a win here would give Brett Bielema an impressive 10-win season for the Fighting Illini. So go won Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl and the college football playoffs. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the Nittany Lions have one job to do tonight, and that's to stop Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State running game. Any new college football fan who barely pays attention would know it's that simple. Stop them, and Penn State's going to win this football game. Any other year, Jeanty wins the Heisman Trophy hands down, but it was too hard to pass up on giving Travis Hunter, who played full-time on both sides of the football, giving him the Heisman. Otherwise, it would have been Jeanty's. And statistically, compared to any other running back that's ever won the Heisman Trophy, he's there. He's head and shoulders above almost all of them. Jeanty ran for a staggering 2,497 yards and 29 touchdowns this year and averaged a whopping 7.3 yards per carry. The good news is Penn State has the 7th best rushing defense in the country, allowing just over a hair over 100 yards per game rushing each and every game. And they're coming off a playoff win versus SMU, where they held their rushing tack to a mere 58 yards on 36 attempts. Now, we all know, granted, SMU's running game is nowhere near what Boise State's is, but a stat is a stat. We thought we'd throw it in there. By the way, when looking up the rushing defensive stats, I discovered, realized 6 of the top 8 rushing defenses in the country are Big Ten schools. Basically, you don't run against Big Ten schools. So Penn State, that's their mindset going against Jeanty and Boise State. You're not going to run against us. You're not going to do it. By the way, Indiana led the way this year, just giving up 86 yards on the ground per game. Led the country. Ole Miss snuck in there at number 2. Then it was Michigan at number 3, followed by Ohio, not Ohio State, at number 4. UCLA rounded out the top 5. Then Nebraska, Penn State, and Ohio State rounded out the top 8 in the country. And again, rushing defense per game. You might be surprised to learn that Boise State, their run defense was 14th in the country. So they're going to try and stop the Penn State running game. Boise gave up just 112.5 per game this year. So I thought I was a little surprised by that. It was interesting and maybe a factor in this game, but maybe this is where Penn State can have an advantage in punch, the 1-2 punch with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. So I think a slight advantage, actually, believe it or not, the running game for Penn State in this matchup. I also expect everything tight end Tyler Warren to have an outstanding game. He can catch, he can run, he can throw, he can block, he does it all. So look for him. This will be a chance for a lot of people nationally to discover him for the first time. All that is great. But in games like this, Penn State has to remember to keep the main thing. Stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. And in 14 games, the Nittany Lions have held opponents to 3.1 yards per carry on the ground. Again, Jeanty may have trouble hitting his 7.3 per yards per carry average. Penn State doesn't even allow half of that. So defensive coordinator Tom Allen, if his defense is successful here, the Penn State Nittany Lions will be going to play, advancing in the playoffs and be playing in the semifinals, taking on the winner of Notre Dame and Georgia. Love to hear from you here, Nittany Lion fans. Hit me up. You're ready to go for this game. Your thoughts on the running game, both offensively and defensively. Hey, everybody, be sure to subscribe. If you haven't done it yet throughout 2024, now's your time. Hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it never requires any personal information. It's just a click of a button, and that's it. And that allows you and me to be locked in together. Locked On Big Ten, get it for free wherever you get your podcasts, and get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And while you're at it, share, like, and follow. That always helps us out as well. And don't forget to pick up some Big Ten gear, some Team Spirit, schools, pennants, shirts, hats, all that stuff right on our website where we put all of our podcasts talkbig10.com. That's talkbig10.com for podcasts and school merchandise. So check all that out. If you missed out on Christmas, didn't get what you wanted, go ahead and get it for yourself. New Year's savings right there as well. All right, now, a couple other things I want to get to here. First of all, going to talk about what's going to be different. I told you I was going to get to this later. Later's coming up here. What's going to be different in the rematch between Oregon and Ohio State when they play here in the Rose Bowl? I'll have all of that coming up as well. Plus, our final Tuesday tweets of 2024. It's all coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Rocket Money does so many things. I'm going to tell you about one or two things here today. Rocket Money helps you find all the subscriptions you have, find out if you're paying for them twice, or help you organize them a little bit. Rocket Money, it's $6.99 here, $3.99 there. You got all these subscriptions. They're just adding up, taking money out of your paycheck and out of your bank account. Rocket Money has made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills and grow your savings. And it brings it all alone, as a matter of fact, saving members up to $750 a year when using all the app's premium features. So check it out. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers have been with us throughout the entire 2024 year. Thank you very much. We welcome more in 2025. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And while you're there, check out our website, talkbig10.com. By now, every football fan in America knows that Oregon beat Ohio State by 1 point at Autzen Stadium back in October. And everybody knows that had this game gone on 1 or 2 more seconds, Ohio State had the momentum, was in field goal range for a possible game-winning kick. But quarterback Will Howard botched the time management situation at the end of the game. He slid a second too late. Game is over. Last play. For the Ducks, it was a major feather in their cap and a major victory that allowed them to go on to an undefeated season, eventually win the Big Ten championship, and make their march for 16-0 in a national championship. It's all right there for them to take. For the Ohio State Buckeyes, it was a pivotal moment in their season. They, justifiably had all the same aspirations and goals as Oregon did. Big Ten title, college football playoffs, national championship. Both teams were loaded going into this season. Both had the same expectations. To lose a game like that by 1 point can kind of make you feel like you can play with anybody, anywhere in the country, especially if you feel like you should have won the game or if you made a mistake at the end that cost you. Otherwise, even Steven. So that was a tough loss for the Buckeyes. And look, Ryan Day didn't feel that way. Wow, we could play with anybody in the country. That was a big turning point for them because he went into that. They had a bye week after that game. And he talked about how he wanted to use that extra time to just completely revamp their defense. You can't give up 32 points to Oregon. That's not winning football. And neither were the 496 yards of offense that the Ducks posted in that game as well. But Day thought better of it. He decided, now we'll keep it the same. We're just going to double down. We're going to do it better. And they have done it better defensively since that point. In fact, the Buckeyes have only given up more than 2 touchdowns twice all season, and one was against the Ducks. Since their October meeting, Ohio State has allowed just 11.7 points per game. But what was different again in that game, Dylan Gabriel was just sitting back in the pocket, just throwing the ball wherever he wanted. Since then, Ohio State's defense is peaking right now, as evidenced by their performance, I think, versus the Tennessee Vols in the first playoff game. Another area that the Buckeyes have been great at is in their secondary. Now, listen to this. They've given up 3 pass plays for 40 or more yards in the last 2 seasons. 3 plays. Now, 2 of those plays were in October against Oregon. Dylan Gabriel, a 48 and a 69-yard touchdown pass in that game. he picked the Buckeyes apart, especially corner Denzel Burke, arguably their best corner. Expect him to try and do that again, especially early in the game. We'll see if he's improved any or been able to figure anything out. They'll go for him. They'll go after him. Now, Gabriel was a Heisman Trophy candidate for a reason, and he's got a bunch of weapons to choose from, and they all can catch the long ball. Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden, all great. Johnson going to be pretty close to 100% in this game after suffering that shoulder injury in the Michigan game. They eased him back into the lineup for the season finale against Washington. He had 3 catches and 36 yards, but then he was full speed ahead in the Big Ten championship game against a pretty good Penn State defense where he had 11 catches and 181 yards and a touchdown. Now he's had another 3.5 weeks to recover, get back into the flow. I think he's going to be phenomenal in this game. In fact, great matchups of wide receivers. Jeremiah Smith on the Ohio State side, and of course, Tez Johnson and company for the Oregon Ducks. And there's so many receivers there with Oregon, it could spell some trouble for the Ohio State secondary in this game. Another key to watch in this game, and we mentioned this yesterday in yesterday's Locked On Big Ten podcast. You should go back and watch it if you're a Buckeyes or a Ducks fan, if you missed it. And that's how the Buckeyes offensive line will hold up against the Oregon defensive line. Ducks edge rusher Jordan Burch, he missed the October game. He got hurt a couple days before that game in practice. And despite missing a few games, he still has 8.5 sacks this year, and he will provide constant pressure up front. That's what he does. And Ohio State didn't have to face that last time. Now, doubly troubling for Ohio State here is their problems up front kind of really started going downhill in that game when left tackle Josh Simmons was injured for the season. His backup has since been hurt, and starting center Seth McLaughlin tore his Achilles in practice the week of the Indiana game, and he's been out. So let's face it, the Ohio State offensive line, it looked bad in the loss to Michigan, but it looked much better in the Tennessee Vols game, the beginning of the playoffs. So they had some time to work on things and get better, and it was apparent in that Tennessee game. So, final chance right here. Those are some of the things I'm looking at going into this game. The battles between the Ohio State offensive line and the Oregon defensive line, and all the wide receiver weapons for Oregon versus the secondary for the Buckeyes. Let's get the trash talk going, friendly or unfriendly, with the comments on YouTube between Oregon Duck fans and Ohio State fans. Would love it. Penn State, jump in there as well. We love all that. It's great. So go ahead and hit those comments on YouTube right here. And this will be our last podcast of 2024. We will not have our usual Wednesday morning podcast ready for you, ready to go, but we will be on later that day, Wednesday, January 1st, live right after the conclusion of this Ohio State Oregon Rose Bowl game that we've been talking about. Plenty of analysis, immediate opinion, your comments, my comments. I'll have plenty to say about the Penn State game on New Year's Eve as well against Boise State. All are welcome. Make a note of it. The Rose Bowl will probably be over around again, 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there, Eastern time. We'll go live here on Locked On Big Ten on YouTube right away. Right as soon as that final coach interview on the sideline after the final whistle's over, boom, we're going live and we're going to attack it. We're going to have a great time. So it'll kick off 2025 in grand style. All right, we're not done yet, though. We're not. We got the last set of Tuesday tweets for 2024. That's next. It's very centric around the Rose Bowl, Penn State, a lot of great stuff. Hang around. It's all coming up in a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's do this. It is time for Tuesday tweets. You guys can always hit us up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, and I always pull right from there, from you guys, your tweets, and put them here on the program. If you are new to us here at the end of 2024, we always do a feature at the end of the podcast. Mondays are top 10 Big Ten observations for the weekend. Tuesday tweets. Wednesday we do power rankings. Thursdays, we look ahead to Big Ten Network scheduling with Big Ten Classics and live action. And Friday, we make our picks, Big Skin picks, basketball picks, Heisman Trophy odds later in the summer, that kind of stuff. All right there. So let's fire it up. Let's put it up full screen. I'll describe this as best I can if you are on audio only. So here we go. This is from @GoDucks, Rose Ready. It is an illustration of an Oregon Ducks helmet in front of the Rose Bowl sign, the palm trees with rose petals all over the place. Very nice. Very, very nice. And then here is the patch, a close-up of the patch on the jerseys that Oregon will be wearing in this Rose Bowl game. This is from @Oregon Football. They put this out. It says flying a familiar route, #GoDucks. This is their third Rose Bowl appearance, I believe, if in recent memory. So there we go. Here is a picture from the OSU man. It says the stage is set. It is an overhead shot of the Rose Bowl with the San Gabriel Mountains in the background and the field all painted up with the Ohio State end zone on the near side. Can't quite make it out on the far side of the picture, but it's all green and yellow for the Oregon Ducks. One of the most beautiful settings for a football game ever is all painted, set, and ready to go with the Rose logo at the 50-yard line. Meanwhile, this is from @Buckeye Huddle. It is Jeremiah Smith in his press conference. He said he went to Brian Hartline, the receivers coach, and during their playoff prep. He says he demanded to be pushed harder. All right, challenge accepted. Good. Oh, you haven't seen him play, just a freshman. You watch him play, you go, there's no way he's a freshman. He's a man-child out there, very skilled. Be a future NFLer, no doubt about it, but the Buckeyes get him for another couple of years. Here is @College Football Alerts, best odds as of today to win the college football playoff. This is per ESPN, so let's take a look at it. By the way, there's a picture of Jeremiah Smith, who we just talked about in action there. Let's see here. Ohio State, they say, now has the best odds to win it all, 19.8%. Texas at 19.6%, and the Oregon Ducks at 17.6%. Got Penn State sitting there at number 4 at 14.5%. So, quick recap. 3 of the top 4 teams with the best chances to win the championship are Big Ten teams, which goes back to the point of the beginning of this podcast, how we're dominating the college football landscape. So there you have it. Georgia at 14%, Notre Dame at 13%, Boise, less than 1%, as is Arizona State. How about big drop-off? Big drop-off once you get out of the Big Ten there. Here is a picture of Beaver Stadium in action during a whiteout. It's from Penn State Mafia. Says, is it Tuesday yet? Yes, it is. I can't wait for some Penn State football. #we are. And then hopefully I'll see you all in Miami January 9th. Again, the winner of Notre Dame and Georgia. And not to be left out, here's from Swanky Wolverine. He says Tampa loves Michigan football. He is sure this is a Photoshop. He replaced the M in Tampa on the I-75 north side with the gold block M, the maize block M, Tampa, Michigan. Here is at Fiesta Bowl. Welcome to Arizona at Coach James Franklin, head coach of Penn State, getting off the steps of the airplane. Private charter jet for the team, landing, ready to go. And here's some more. It's a picture of Drew Aller signing a young lady's Drew Aller jersey on her back at Penn State on Big Ten, tweeting this out. Says Drew Aller showing some love to a fan as he arrives at the Fiesta Bowl Media Day. This is you won't be able to see this if you're audio only. This is a picture of the trophy that they're playing for in the Fiesta Bowl. And this is from @Big Ten Football putting out. It is huge. It is sparkly. It has a lot of colors and gold and blue. It's more fancy than the Crystal Trophy for the national champion. That's a lot of trophy right there. And as long as we're talking about Penn State, former Penn State running back Saquon Barkley, now with the Philadelphia Eagles. I had to give him a shout out here. Standing ovation for Saquon for reaching 2,000 yards rushing last week. I think he needs 101 yards to get Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season mark. But he's got an extra game to do it, the 17-game schedule. But let's just enjoy and praise the 2,000 yards that he got, because that was pretty cool. But that's it. That's it for Tuesday tweets. Last one of 2024. Let me know what you think. And love to hear from you. Again, a lot of reminders here as we wind things down for the year. You can always follow us or reach out to us via Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten number 10. YouTube comments, trash talking back and forth. We love it. Put it out there. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go chronologically, and we group them by school as well. And, for example, we talked about both Ohio State and Oregon. This will go under Oregon and Ohio State. There are links there for all of your favorite school merchandise. If you want to get some shirts, T-shirts, hats with your school logo on it, it is all right there as well. Again, reminder, no Wednesday morning podcast, but we're going live Wednesday late, right after the Rose Bowl, 9-ish o'clock p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. That'll be our New Year's Day kickoff with Locked On Big Ten as we go live after the Rose Bowl. So don't miss that. Can't wait for that. That'll be a lot of excitement. In the meantime, thank you for helping this podcast channel grow tremendously in 2024. We're looking for bigger and better things in 2025. I'll say Happy New Year to you, and we'll talk to you after the Rose Bowl here on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Happy New Year. Talk to you later.